Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this webinar on China's strategies for the green transition, domestic developments and their foreign policy nexus. My name is Marco Sidi, and I am a senior researcher at the Finnish Institute of International Affairs. I'm also leading and coordinating a project on the global politics of the energy transition. And this is the third webinar of this project. Let me point out right away that within the project, Elina Sinkonen as main author and I recently published a FIIA briefing paper titled Foreign Investments, De-risking and the EU's Green Transition, Mining Critical Minerals in Finland. You find it on the FIIA website, and my colleague, Dr. Elina Sinkonen, will say more in her presentation today. I will briefly introduce the topic and the key questions that we will address today. China is largely seen as a leader in producing resources and technologies for the low carbon transition. For example, in the extraction and processing of rare earths, and in the production of photovoltaic panels and wind turbines. So, as you see, at both ends of the supply chain for renewable energy. Very importantly, it plays a prominent role in key areas such as battery production, manufacturing of batteries, electric vehicles. Fossil fuels remain central in the country's energy mix. However, the Chinese Communist Party has started talking about the construction of an ecological civilization among its main priorities. And Beijing, China has become a top exporter of key technologies to the West and to numerous other foreign states, acquiring a prominent, if not dominant, roles in some areas, to the point that now in the West there is a discussion that basically revolves around concepts from de-risking, so limiting vulnerabilities in some strategic areas where Chinese imports are so important, to decoupling altogether, especially I think on the other side of the Atlantic. The discourse is even more hawkish in this regard. So the key questions we will address today are: what are the main priorities in China's policies for the green transition? What are their external implications? And what are the consequences of the Western policy, especially the EU policy of de-risking in the green sector for China? Let me start introducing our distinguished speaker. In the meantime, I get some positive signals as I now see Professor Yu in the webcam, and I see he's receiving some help. Okay, while we wait for the finalization of the preparations, let me say a few words on our speaker who is joining us from Shanghai. Yu Hongyuan is professor and director of the Institute for Public Policy and Innovation Studies at the Shanghai Institute for International Studies. He is also an honorary fellow at the Center for International Energy Strategy Studies at Renmin University of China. And he has a few other affiliations. He has also worked at China's Ministry of Science and Technology. And he is the author of numerous publications, including a book on global warming and China's environmental diplomacy. Today, he will tell us more about China's strategies for the green transition.
Thanks so much. I'm sorry. I'm Hong Yuan from Shanghai Institute for International Studies. It's my great pleasure, honor to share my research, particularly on China and any transition with you. And currently, just after COP28, we confirmed that more and more stakeholders, including China, not only the major powers, but also the urban, the cities and the NGOs, business, particularly China's business, private and city-owned business, join the COP28 and show his endeavors for rise to zero. Particularly this for COP28 in Dubai is we have more than 20,000 Chinese business to come to Dubai to share the futures. And particularly when we take a look about China's great leap forward for the net zero or any transition, we can find the solar, the wind, particularly even the biomass, nuclear power plants, and hydrogen, and the EV, and even hydrogen vehicles in China growing very fast. Particularly for this today's China's, we can find China's City Congress and China's Premier Li Qiang's report. We will take all around measures to encourage China's energy transition. However, we can find that China should have a very long way to go. We still have, for our energy structures, the coal accounts for still around 60%, and China's oil import account for 1/4 of the world, and particularly for our carbon emissions, GHG emissions, non-carbon and carbon emissions are all actually number one, even 1/3 of the world. Particularly, so not only for this, but also for our COP28, for China actually play a very active role in COP28 for as we know, for before that China EU and China and the United States have some joint documents on energy transition, particularly for China also to join with other countries for net zero futures for the world, and particularly for last 5 years, China's energy investment, particularly clean energy investment, according to the government. China, my colleagues in Greenpeace or China, to his analysis can find that China's clean energy investment still account for quite a lot in the world, and particularly for not only for China's clean energy investment, but also for China's renewable energy industry export, like the solar PV and the EV, and particularly for last year, for year 2023, you can find China have a boom in his EV, wind, and solar, and which will help, particularly for help EU to join the cheap green products during the energy and the climate challenges. And we also found that for China, we found the green competition during the energy transition, we can find the geopolitics based on the climate and energy also growing, like United States have focused on the RA, Inflation Reduction Act, and the EU.
Professor
now,
Yu,
okay. I'm really sorry. We can find for China's export investment, particularly for China's renewable energy export last year we have boom in our export, but we also found the competition between different powers, between China, EU, China, United States, and particularly based on the geopolitics like the RA, US, RA, and the EU's critical mineral law, EU's the potential act like CBM and other act towards China, potential areas for competition, particularly for from the IP to the carbon tariffs, and even for some critical minerals or green supply chain. We found the increasing the geopolitics competition during the energy transition. We can find that if we have maybe we have different scenario for we can have the positive sum, negative sum, or we can have the zero sum for doing the energy transitions, and we should for China we take a look when we think about US geopolitics for doing the energy transition to China is just take all around measures for climate maybe climate clubs or to try to decarbon China or in the green energy or even for some others for not for EU or for particularly for EU and the US for clean club, climate club, and particularly for some minor multilateral or multilateral clubs from the global magazine or the and other clubs. China is not be among the member of these clubs, and from China's or maybe from just according to my research from China point of view, I really think that just in this area, that the US, particularly US, try to decarbon China for this clean energy area, clean industry area, and also the US and the other G7 countries make full use of the GTP, just energy transition partnership to decarbon China and to use the new mechanism, new realism and mechanism to decarbon China in these areas. And this also to make China to worry so much about this geoclimate competition between China and the United States, and so what China for in last 3 years, China's just also have a very hot discussion on climate club and green supply chains club and other by United States, and this is and also China also to have some discussion on the research matter on the global the global south and China's relations with global south, China's relations with GTP, and China's relations with currently some quite a lot new clubs like energy transition clubs, or even during the COP, we can find China refused to join some clubs like nuclear, the TRIP renewable energy and global medicine, and since and also we found that for China we can find that security and development or security and climate change become some research concerns, and secondly for China we can find that if we can show some like on the one hand it's de-risks or decouplling, on the other hand we should make the full use of the supply chain and create the huge demands or huge supply for green and products, but they have more some actually we find the conflicts between this, and also we can find the climate finance and the climate debts or the development debts between or among the developing countries, and also we found that for the energy we can find the energy access and energy transition between the poor countries, between the energy between One Belt and One Road countries and the rich countries. So so we should have try to find some balanced solutions between this, and particularly what we can do to deal with the security, climate change, and the development. We can deal with the triangles like the energy security, like the cheap green energy from China, and our net zero goal. Like for EU, he should have the dilemma for these three factors. For United States and other countries also have to make some balanced solutions. For China, we can have very, as we know, for policy, market, and investment are the three pillars for our green development. For China, we have about for top-down, strong state, strong policy. We also have the based on the government agencies, very strong investment to create the market, but we lack such kind of the market economy and quite a lot in the private sectors or the science the innovations like in EU or the United States. However, we can find for China's government or Chinese climate governments like we have the top-down, the very strong political signals, like by like in 2020 and 2021, like President Xi Jinping says that we have the carbon neutrality. We will stop build the overseas coal-fired power plant, and also we will push the energy transition, the clean energy and the low carbon society by 1+N policies. One, that we should make the ecological civilization. We have 1+. That means we have the communication, the energy efficiency, the energy storage, and the industry. And China actually make all the 1+N policies for carbon neutrality in his 5 years plans. And also 2035 years plan, just like EU's policies, EU's policies, and also we have not from the strategic plan, 5 years plan, and also we use the goal-based governance that we have make the 2060 carbon neutrality, we make the 2035 goals, and we make our ecological civilization and a beautiful China as a 2035 goals, very important the national building goals. And so this is goal-based governance actually shows a very strong policy signals, and that is top-down models like we perform China's dual carbon, so in China's strong time, dual carbon framework, carbon neutrality, carbon peak framework actually use the 1+. We have make the key areas, key industries, and we also create the support mechanism, and we also have some mechanisms for the evaluation, and even the sections for use the government controls. But just like CPC's 20th National Congress, all for today's Promise Li Qiang's government report, we can find that the climate change or so-called carbon neutrality actually in the long term is for China is use the systematic work and use the strong governmental or developmental governmental approach to make, and particularly from the top the grassroots the low carbon community to China so-called the systematic ecological civilization buildings. China will try this always for clean to build for our clean clean energy market for China as the #1 clean energy, clean products or producers. It's also to continue to play such kind of role for global supply chain, and also we can make it so China is currently the change from his developmental model to try to strike for a high quality development, to change our developmental type, the norms for high qualities, and this is I think China to try our best to make the climate based as our economic transition. So this my concept is China's model is a low carbon modernization. This is quite different with the EU, Finland, or United States, because China considering our per capita GDP, China is still a developing country. But on the one hand, we push forward our high quality development, export, and market building, private building. On the other hand, we will make it as a the so-called 1+N policy for carbon neutrality to building, to make the solar PV, the EV, and hydrogen green fuels as our new drivers, new economic engines for China's economic development. So among this, we should pay more attention to China's Green Belt and Road policies. It's because it's actually to make China's better OBR policy or China's OBR buildings. Mainly, when we talk about EU policy or US policy, I think EU policy only care about the development aid or climate and conflicting states. But for China's OBOR, Green Belt and Road policy, we focus on create or make a game changer for developing countries. That means we will create the huge green demands from poor countries, not only focus on the demands from the EU or US rich countries. That means make every home and very from the Southeast Asian environment can use the clean energy, make clean energy affordable, accessible, and available. Just we can find in Central Asia, China makes a huge wind and solar PV, and China also will build the global supply chain. You can find the many infrastructure. Well, at the moment, we should build the energy infrastructure. On the other hand, you should make these countries work hand with countries for modernization to create the huge demands. This is also what the United Nations reports talk about. We should make the urgent actions. We should make the game changers for energy transition, like for Africa, Central Asia, South Asia, to make it create the. But the first step everyone should have to can get his get his money, get his salary from his modernization, industrialization, energy, building, and clean energy. So this is, and also Green Belt and Road focus on the infrastructure, ecological industry, and the environmental industry, like the key areas like a green technology corporation, like some green industry park, like in Africa, Central Asia, like also some green supply chain from the bottom, from bottom stream to upstream, from the lithium for cobalt to the EV, to the batteries, like China's work with Indonesia and Vietnam. We can work together to create some new green supply chain, and also for BRICS country and China Central Asia countries cooperation on hydrogen, like China and Kazakhstan currently work on the hydrogen pipeline, hydrogen the vehicles cooperation in Kazakhstan for this is gas-based hydrogen. And also we can find that for all the One Belt One Road countries are vulnerable, most vulnerable climate change. So we should also pay more attention, like China, EU should work together. We have some cooperation for third-party cooperation for energy, food, water cooperation, like in Amu River, Upper River, like in Langchang, Meigong River, particularly Meigong River. We work on the clean energy and the fishery, energy food cooperation for transboundary cooperation, and also to should build their climate resilience, like climate education for this country. And also what we can have the, because China EU, like China, Finland, China, Germany, China EU, we actually are the green partnership between China and China and the European Union. Actually, China learned quite a lot from EU's environmental policies since 1972. At that time, Premier Zhou Enlai sent China's one delegation to Stockholm to learn what is the environmental governance, global governance, and with one planet, the norms since 1972. And also we make a copy EU's ETS to Shanghai and to Shenzhen to build our environmental carbon norms, carbon rules. Currently, China have make work. Maybe China's national carbon markets is out. In the future, in the 2030, maybe we can cover what largest the carbon emissions in the future, and also we work with EU like the biodiversity, plastic reduce, and particularly green rare earths, green steel production. Work the cooperation like in Shanghai and Norway. I think the green steel production, hydrogen production, and currently for China EU, as the EU makes a sustainable industry disclosure and also tax money for for all the exporting China's exporting industries. So this at this stage, China EU and particularly China as I think after the EU's carbon CBAM, China is the leading countries China business for providing the carbon emissions data, and in the future for tax model, for methodologies, and for SDG, business SDG information disclosure. I think for China EU can have quite a lot area to cooperation, particularly for tax model methodology and joint methodology between China EU, like should have and also China EU have maybe in the future for China actually shares most of the global share for green green products from the upstream to downstream, even for midstream, like for from real earth to solar PV. So at this time, China can do is that we can fund this, we can have share like EU China business EU can do something to change all the green supply chain from the upstream, like the rare earth, to be more low carbonized, to be more green than before. And we can, for the downstream, and we can make all the green the trade, the IP, the laborers, all the talents, all the exports, like for climate change, can flow between China and EU freely, just like green company. We use the free trade between China and the free trade to help to save the green supply chain for the world, and particularly we can find we have the clean. According to our research with Greenpeace and the WRI, we can find for energy storage, for smart grid, particularly for energy and the smart for so energy system plus AI, and also for China's energy market, clean energy market reform, and energy efficiency, energy city building, particularly circular economy, and some economy of products based on the nature based on negative carbon products. Like biomass, we can have quite a lot of areas can work together, like China EU. According to our report, I can share with you. And also for the future, China EU, because China still showcase a very strong power for energy investment, for industry investment in the next 10 years. Maybe China can for China and EU So we found China EU's CII comprehensive agreement on investment is suspended, but we can make the green part of CII can be restart or renegotiation. That can help China and EU can make some mutual investment for green or clean energy, and particularly for this area like EV, this area for our trade balance, make a trade more fair, just for both. And in the conclusion, we can find two scenarios. One scenario is negative sum, that we can continue to use geopolitics or use new mechanism, realism and plus mechanisms to deal with China-EU or deal with China-US relations. One approach, we should use win-win. We work together from the business level, civil society level to the government level, and we should depoliticalize the energy, make the green climate change to help global net zero. Because according to UN report, actually we cannot fulfill our goal for 1.5, or even we cannot fulfill this goal of 2-degree scenario. So we should to take some all-around measures to make the game changer for EU-US, for China-EU relations, for China-Finland relations. Make this transition, urgent transition, to take ambitious policies to push our energy transition for globally, not only for EU, China, but particularly we should make Africa power countries make the game changer as soon as possible. This is all for my presentation. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Yu, for this comprehensive presentation. We will return to you with a few questions in a moment. But before that, I would like to hand the floor to my colleague Elina Sinkonen. I will say a few words to introduce her as well, even though probably most of you already know her. Elina is a senior research fellow at FIIA, and she also holds the title of docent in East Asian Studies, and specifically East Asian politics at the University of Turku. Her research interests include great power relations, authoritarian regimes, regional security in East Asia, Chinese nationalism, and she has worked also on the domestic foreign policy nexus in IR theory with reference to China specifically. She has published in many excellent journals. And let me also mention that her co-edited book on the new roles of women in Chinese society won the 2016 Kanava Prize, which is given to the best Finnish book in the fields of politics, society, economics, history, or culture. Now, today, Elina will tell us more about mining critical minerals in Finland, or actually she will also comment specifically on the topics we have heard from Professor Yu. So please, Elina, the floor is yours.
Well, hello everybody, and many thanks, Marco, for that kind introduction, and many thanks for Professor Yu for this really comprehensive presentation on the situation in China. And I couldn't agree more with you that all countries would definitely need to adopt more ambitious policies in climate change, and it's really unfortunate that the political climate at the moment in the great power relations is so focused on competition that it makes sometimes a bit difficult to form these win-win cooperative projects that Professor Yu also mentioned. I would perhaps divide this so that I could first ask a few questions from Professor Yu regarding the domestic context in China, and then in the end we can go perhaps if there is still time left for the themes that regard more the EU's policy and whether it's possible to increase mining of critical minerals in the European Union, which has been the target policy of the Union because of this these really deep China dependencies that the European Union has in the green transition. So, but regarding the general global climate change aims that we all have and which we are not meeting at the moment, I would like to ask Professor Yu a few questions about the China's domestic side still. China has invested quite a lot in solar panels in the recent years, and I have heard that there have been some grid integration problems. So problems of connecting everything in the electric system. So how is this issue being dealt with, and does it seem more positive at the moment? And another big issue that we face in China is still that there is coal production and it's been supported, and there is a lot of lobbying for coal from the coal producers. So is there now a more the trend towards giving up the coal production, or does the government still give support for new coal projects? And then since yesterday, the government work report was submitted to the National People's Congress. I was wondering if you have already had a look of that government work report and how the climate change and climate change issue is present in these discussions. I had only time to quickly go through the headlines, and I saw that that there is energy revolution is mentioned in the papers that have been submitted to the National People's Congress. But there is also the tension in China at the moment that the GDP growth has been going down, and government is of course worried about the GDP growth. People are not happy if the economy is not growing. So there is little pressure to give some stimulus package, perhaps to increase the domestic consumption. Chinese government has been trying to promote the increasing of domestic consumption for over 20 years, and it's still very difficult to get that going. So then there is the tension that if you give a stimulus package for the domestic economy, does that then mean that some of the climate change goals are maybe in trouble? So can we do such boosting of the domestic economy in an environmentally friendly way? Is there any science or discussion about this issue? So there were already quite a few questions, so maybe I'll stop here, and then in the end we can perhaps get still back to the Europe if we have time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elina. So let me give the floor back to Professor Yu. Would you like to address some of these issues already at this stage? And by the way, on a separate note, we still see your PowerPoint. So now if you want, you can stop sharing it. But please, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much. Thanks for your questions on this. But I'm not an economist. I'm a researcher on government policy, on public policy. I've tried to answer your questions. First, about China's energy structure. That we can find. That's 3 days ago. 3 days ago, we can find China's political bureau, Central Political Bureau, President Xi Jinping make that group learning on new energy, and we can find that at this time we pay more particularly attention to the new energy, and the new energy for the stimulus or the new economic engine for China's future cooperation development. This is first. The second is for China, so-called in Chinese 心力货迫. It's quite that means China should make a balanced solutions for our energy structure. We can find in the on the one hand we have, to be honest, just after pandemic, after the pandemic, China is maybe the only largest economic powerhouse for his coal export or consumption. Actually, consumption groceries is still very fast. And but on the other hand, we can find that for the energy structure or the electricity structure, China's energy mix, that the coal actually is declining gradually, step by step, and but on the other hand, we can find that for China's carbon efficiency, I hope we can maybe we can welcome some can visit Shanghai, visit China's coal-fired power plants. At this time, for actually the carbon efficiency for China's coal-fired plant, maybe world #1. And this, but for China, we should do is not just coal-fired plants or just steel. We should to take it for all around supply chain products, that from the upstream to downstream. And China is world, and not only China as you to talk about China's energy, carbon emission produce, but also China shares most of the global steel production. You can find the steel, aluminum, and some manufacture petrochemical. For China's petrochemical is worth around more than 60% for steel, for aluminum, for all this and for all this cement, for all this high even rare earths, for high pollution or carbon intensities industries for globally are concentrated in China. So this is also, on the one hand, we can fund China every year makes so much carbon emission, but on the other hand, China also make a contribution to this because the rare earth steel, the aluminum produced in China, we can make it. We also share this carbon emission cost for this for this. So what China can do, and the best choices for all the supply chain from the upstream, downstream, and if like a EU or United States, if we can take or change maybe the upstream, maybe change from the like steel, like the aluminum from China to Indonesia, you can find the carbon emissions, all their energy efficiency may be much worse than before. So what we can do for carbon emissions is take a systematic approach that China and the world, not China and the EU and the United States, we can take a whole perspective for this, not only just case by case, but this second, the third is for investment, and currently China joined actively in World Bank's ID reform, World Bank's reform, particularly with the green finance, climate finance, and the China currently, even in Shanghai, we also bring the climate debts or green debts. In China, it also have China business also make issue the green bonds in European markets, the green debts in European markets. Also, I think that there's a kind of financial cooperation between China and EU, or China also makes a private-public cooperation for energy transition. The third is about, the last is about China's maybe GDP growth rate is only 5%, but this is, I think currently the economic development is a global crisis, economic, climate change, energy, and geopolitics, like geopolitical conflicts. It's the world challenge, world crisis. Just like the year before the First World War. At that time, we can find we have the demand crisis, the energy crisis. But this is different because our humankind can learn by doing learn the past. We can change. That means we can use cooperation, global governance. The cooperation is rooted in the humankind's gene. This is different. I think this is the biggest difference between the human and between the human and the animals. Because the cooperation is our nature. So I think that we can use the cooperation to help to create the demand for China. The GDP growth rate maybe much lower than before. This is also caused by the demands, not only for China's demand markets, consumption, housing, but also for the globally the demands. It's a decline, like a EU market and the United States and the Africa, and also we should also to make we can join together to make some to make some investment, huge investment to create some demands from the power countries, by infrastructure or something like that. And also for China currently, the largest challenge for China, I think, is we cannot just find the new and major the economic the engine growth economic engine just like in 10 years or 20 years ago, China take housing, take the infrastructure, take the government investment as our economic powerhouse engine. But currently, even we can just make the same level of government economic stimulus plan like 2008, maybe 40,000 or even larger economic, but even cannot make the same, maybe the make a impact just like 2008. So we should create or find some new merger like the solar PV, AI, or some maybe actually maybe we should find some some new manufacturing and also for China, I cannot agree with you, because I think China's biggest challenge it's not GDP growth rate, it's about China's enterprise or China's business internationalization, not only China's state-owned or business, like China have quite a lot of state-owned business. China also have quite a lot of private sectors, public sectors. We should just let China follow like Japan, like Korea, South Korea, like Germany. We should make our business much more internationalized. That we can make then China should to learn to be a good partners with EU, with Japan, with US business, just like Finland's the business. I think that currently you can find that most of China's private sectors that's built or founded in 1980s, 1990s, only 30 years old history. Even some Chinese EV or solar PV manufacturers founded in 2008 after the Copenhagen conference. So this we should have very urgent task for China's business game changer. China should just like Japan in 1970s. We should have much thousands or even thousands and thousands internationalized business. Not only just like Norway, oil companies is international, is internationalized. They own the company. China we should. So this is the reason that China takes the CPTPP, and as maybe as a goal to join to make our reform for our business, doing business environment, to make the open and reform to much better than before. Maybe this is my explanation. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yu. And let me just share, thanks for this answers. Let me just share a reflection. Let me get back to the topic EU-China that you mentioned already. When we were preparing this webinar, you mentioned that from your perspective, the EU is good at policy, but not so good at finance, which is a bit also the result of our research and paper with Elina Sinkonen. We found very well structured or quite well structured within the limits of what's possible for the EU framework for critical raw materials. But at the same time, we really struggled to actually understand what were the new financing funding lines in the case of the Critical Raw Materials Act, for example. Staying on this topic, before I return also to Elina, because I wanted to ask Elina if she would like to share some insights from the paper itself. Before I return to Elina, I would like to ask if you could briefly say something on the perceptions in China of the Chinese government of developments in the EU climate policy. For example, on CBAM, this is a topic that we worked on also with your colleague and compatriot, Yanzhu Zhang. And back in 2021, we found that CBAM, the carbon border adjustment mechanism, was seen as an issue in China, like in many other countries of the world, including the US. So I was wondering how it is the view today, and also because you talked of international cooperation, and we are talking about China-West relations, what is the view in China of developments, political developments in the US concerning climate policy? So I will summarize briefly. How are Chinese views of EU climate policy and of the US in the light of a possible re-election of Trump?
I think that you can find that in 2017 or 2018, at that time, after Trump withdrew from the Paris Agreement, it's China-EU worked hand by hand to make the Paris Agreement manual can be in practice. And this shows that the China-EU's cooperation can push forward the Paris Agreement forward, and for EU's climate policies for China, and I think that positively we should learn for EU's rules, standards, because high standards to represent the future's development of China's business, China's doing business environment, like Shanghai's urban development, we can follow, like China's even the China's Shanghai's sea transport building, like the green Mansion or green fuels building. On the other hand, for CBAM, for Chinese government, maybe politics for at levels we should in the negotiation for the taxonomy or methodology, but for the business level, because EU's trade balance for China is like around I think around $500 billion US. I think it's really important, very important for China, and also for just in last after pandemic, EU, particularly Germany, is actually for the FDI investment in China, in Shanghai, grow. It's growing. But currently we can find all the FDI for China in China is declining very quickly. But at the same time, we can find still they have the growing investment FDI from the EU to China, and there is so many business from EU in Shanghai and in China, and so this from business level, economic level, all the education, the scientists as we can find the China, the US science cooperation or technology cooperation are all suspended. On that time, EU may be the bridge for China for the future's net zero modernization. It's very important for China. Not only politically, we should make a EU partnership to prevent the new Cold War. But on the other hand, we actually can work with EU, can keep the China's green supply chain or keep China's role in global world supply chain. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Yes, yeah, please, would Andrew, like to contribute? The word is now to Yanzhu Zhang, the Chinese colleague who worked on us on the CBAM and perception of the European Green Deal project, and he wrote a chapter on China. Please.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a very little input. I think the CBAM is widely discussed both in EU and in China. And I think many scholars in China still think that this is a kind of unilateral approach, right? Although there are many, technical details still to be finalized, I think that's a mainstream view on this. This is EU's protectionist policy and unilateral approach. But there are some academic scholars also talking about taking the advantage of this opportunity to harmonize the carbon market in EU and in China, because the CBAM maybe it facilitates the carbon price, the carbon market. This could be a positive aspect, and still some people also think this can open up still the dialogue. That's actually what Professor Yu just said. EU is an opportunity for China, right, to keeping this supply chain. So this is opening the window of dialogue. I think that's basically the view. But I also want to follow up this topic that you mentioned, China, how China reacts to EU's climate policies, and also Anina just mentioned about coal. I want to give a little input. Is that actually China has a couple of years ago, China has already withdrawn from several overseas coal power investment projects already. And in 2021, China has announced that China would not invest in any coal power projects in the Belt and Road anymore. But domestically, coal probably, the coal energy is still the main part of a Chinese overall energy mix, because it takes up to 50% of the energy supply in China. So, and also, the coal has a phenomena of, I think it's a cyclicality, yeah? So it has the periods. So this you can still see the coal, let's say, in recent years, maybe the price of coal is going up a little bit. So that's, I think, that's normal phenomena. But also, I want to address this. I want to ask you a question, is that because now in China, we also read the news. For example, we read the news about the French government officially recently in February released the Energy Sovereignty Act, aiming at achieving the France carbon neutrality goal in 2050 and guarantee the future of French energy security. And according to this French Energy Sovereignty Act, it basically deleted all commitments and specific targets for renewable energy, such as wind power and PV in France. So that's what we read the news. Can I also ask you a question? What's your perspective on this? Because we see in China, this probably means a signal that the climate ambition in EU and in France is declining. It gives us this kind of a negative signal. Yeah, that's my little input. Yeah,
yes, thank you very much. Yes, as a short introduction, we shouldn't forget that actually China has a greater renewable energy production than the EU. and possibly in terms of international investment, it has done. Now it's difficult to make a comparison, but perhaps more than the EU itself. Also, as you rightly pointed out, there's different approaches within the European Union because energy policy in the EU is still a shared competence between the EU level, the Union, and the member states. You cited the case of France. Now, France is, in my perception, trying to defend its nuclear power industry. And it does this in different ways. So, for example, by conceptualizing nuclear power as a renewable energy, which is a controversial topic also in Europe. So it is possible that these plans see a trade-off between renewable energy such as wind and solar and nuclear. At the same time, while competence is shared, there are the EU level objectives, which, as articulated in the Repower EU agenda, they are quite ambitious. So if France withdraws or stops its ambition in those fields, I believe there will be community pressure, and it will be difficult to sell the idea that nuclear is renewable energy, that it is the future. It will be difficult to sell to other member states, including Germany, so very influential ones. It will be difficult to sell also to the wider community because we have seen that with climate change, French nuclear power plants have huge problems in terms of cooling reactors, getting water for their functioning in the summer when electricity consumption is high due to cooling in Europe. So it's there are some initiatives like the French one that are not very easy to reconcile, perhaps, with the broader EU goals. And I fully understand external perceptions of this incoherence in a way. But thank you very much for your contribution and for your question, Andrew. We still have a few minutes left. So if there's any question, I should have said this before. If anyone in the audience would like to ask a question, they can do so right now on the chat, which is open for comments. And in the meantime, let me turn back to my colleague Elina Sinkonen. And I would like to ask Elina if you want to say a few words on the paper, or if you have any other questions to Professor Yu, your own comments. And in the meantime, I will also share the link to our paper in the chat.
Well, thank you, Marco, and thank you, Andrew, for that brilliant question. I think our paper actually links to the EU policies and brings up some of the practical difficulties in this Western drive to de-riskify or limit the dependencies on China in the green transition. So our basic argument here is that the European Critical Raw Materials Act is probably not going to reach the targets it sets for the level of existing dependencies in key raw materials. And this is mostly because the Act does not provide any new funding instruments. And as a practical case in this paper, we illustrate these funding difficulties by looking at the Finnish case. Finland has a mining sector and a battery cluster, so there is a lot of battery industry that is being built in Finland.
Maybe I can take, in the meanwhile, I have a quick question,
yes, please.
Michael. Yeah, this is also an introduction relevant to today's topic. So recently, the topic of ESG is very popular in China. So, the ESG environment, social, and governance, playing into corporate governance companies. And this just last month, I think in December, end of last year, December 2023, the State Council released a document about promoting the construction of a beautiful China. And in that high-level document, it mentioned about ESG, yeah? It mentioned about yes. Companies, guidelines and suggestions for companies to practice ESG. However, this topic, ESG, is very debated in the US right now, yeah? So I read the news that the ESG has become a trash language, a dirty language, a trash language in America, right? However, but ESG is more, let's say, established and well, it's more, let's say, well, it's important, let's say, in the EU context. So what's your perspective on this? And do you think that the ESG in the American context is relevant to somehow get into the parties conflicts, yeah, the conflict between the parties, so the political battle, let's say. So what's your perspective on this? Yeah,
yeah, very briefly
because it could also give pressure to companies in China on the supply chain, yeah.
Yes, so very briefly, this is about, I guess, the role of companies and how they relate to the energy transition in Europe. Both their role as investors and their social responsibility is seen as very important. However, let me just say, as I'm not an expert of this specific topic, that I see some tensions in Europe which are linked to the economic situation. And in general, now, after several years of ambition, we see a renewed concern about basically, I mean, saying growth is even exaggerating, but I would say getting by and making sure that European companies can get by despite the loss of a very important energy provider such as Russia. But a very good point that we could develop in a new discussion. Now, let me briefly, let me do two final things, actually. First, so I would like to return to Elina because she was saying some words about our work. In the meantime, let me also point out to Professor Yu that we have a question in the chat. Yulia Yamineva is asking whether there are any discussions on mitigating methane emissions in China. So you can see the question also in the chat. Professor Yu, this is about methane emissions in China. So if you have any views on that. While you prepare your answer, I will return to Elina, who can say maybe in 2-3 minutes a few more things about our work. Thank you.
Yes, apologies about that. It's the Finnish Parliament's internet connection that just crashed. I'm at the office, so I'm not exactly sure where you lost me. I was talking about the funding, the EU funding that doesn't exist for these new goals of reaching more independence when it comes to critical raw materials that are needed in the green transition. And I was referring to the Finnish case. And actually, one of the findings of this briefing paper that I encourage everybody to look online is that Chinese companies are actually the largest foreign investor group in the Finnish battery sector. So this is interesting in a way that at the same time as at the EU level, we are trying to reduce the China dependencies. Then the way that this seems to be done is that we bring Chinese investors and we then do have the battery factories closer to home, but they are still largely owned by the Chinese investors. So how much this type of strategy increase our independence in this sector if we want to be more more kind of self-reliant. So the funding issue is really crucial when it comes to these EU targets. And I'm not saying I don't know what we should do. I guess it's inevitable that we will be reliant on China, both in supplying some of the raw materials, doing the refining and investing in Europe, but just to reflect to what the EU wishes to do and what the French government wishes to do, the practical level tells you something different. So it seems that there is a pretty long way to reach these goals. And I will end here, since there was a question from the audience for Professor Yu. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elina. And Professor Yu, so there was a question about mitigating methane emissions. Is there a discussion in China about it? Do you have any view on this?
For global methane, particularly methane emissions, as we know for COP27, even for COP28, and for China-US, the Sunshine Joint Declaration in California, we all talk about the non-carbon carbon emission reduction, particularly for China's. Currently, we focus on the energy industry like oil and even the coal, gas. But for currently, you can find China's coal-fired power plant or even coal sections already in the peak and will decrease. But I think that maybe the very hard task for China is gas. Maybe we should still have several years to get the peak for our gas. And but for China's methane, it's also we can have some joint efforts with EU like agriculture, and also we can not only for but currently we talk about methane, but also we can find some negative and CCUS cooperation with the EU, because this is water like energy or energy circular economy cooperation with EU, and it's because this is a positive products, positive or negative products, negative carbon products, not just like solar PV and PV. We should maybe have some competition between the market. For global methane cooperation, particularly for methane, we China will actually make it in the I think in the all full economic China's NDCs before 2035. I think China will make much more progress in his NDC. When China update our NDC, we will make the methane on the other non-carbon, non-CO2 emissions for this. But also we should also to pay more attention to the green field, particularly based on the hydrogen. We can work with Finland because for green field, because for the transport, for the sea transport, maritime transport, we can make it like the new cooperation. On the one time we talk about the China, you talk about the China's high dependence, China's high dependence on China. But also on the other hand, we should work together for find the new demands on the new areas for our cooperation, like from the North Pole to for the transport, for the African countries, for the new demands for green cooperation. Secondly, we can fund if we can ask. We can restart our CAI, China-EU comprehensive agreement on investment negotiation, particularly the part of the green products. Again, maybe we can ask Finland business can have much more and more China's like BRD or other business shareholders. We can make China's solar PV or like a solar or wind or EV business more and more internationalized. Like iPhone, you Finland companies, your Finland just never criticize iPhone as a dominator for my market. But if China, I think on the one hand, I think China should do is for his internationalized or his business. We should make Finland or European country can get much more and more our shareholders of business. We change or reform our state-owned business. And for critical minerals, I think China is in the middle stream, not in the upstream. Upstream in Indonesia, in Africa, in Australia, for in even the Myanmar. But for China, it's just because China in the critical side, critical minerals processing, like rare earth industry, with actually all the most of the pollutions, carbon emissions, all in the I think the labor intensified industry is located in China. So this also shows what we can work together for green like 3R reuse, reduce our circular economy for these green manners. Maybe we can find some new area for our cooperation. I think that in these hard times, we should make some balanced solution for security and development. We should not pay much more attention to security, but also we should make some attention from the high dependence because of Russia's war, and also we should also for this time we should make some hard choice for maybe our net zero growth, energy security, and the cheap green products from China. You should make a choice, make hard choice, because currently you cannot afford for very high energy, the very high or very expensive the lithium, the batteries. If you never change your net zero goals, so we should make some balanced solution between development, climate change, and security. Make some balanced solutions between the net zero, China's dependency on China, and the energy security. But maybe we can do it by multilateral, not unilateral.
Yes,
do it by UN. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I like to end on this note, on this call for cooperation. We shouldn't forget that the climate crisis is possibly the most consequential for humanity than any other crisis that we have in the world, any security crisis that we have in the world today. So while we are concerned about security issues, as Professor Yu has just said, we should keep in mind that the cooperation on energy transition retains paramount importance. We went over time a few minutes, almost 10 minutes actually, so I apologize to the audience. We had some technical problems, so I hope we made up for them. But let me thank you all for participating, for attending this seminar. Thank you very much, Professor Yu, for taking the time to participate and for your contribution and your very useful and interesting perspective from Shanghai. Thank you very much to my colleague, Dr. Elina Sinkonen. The webinar is now closed, and we will continue with this webinar series in April, when we will continue our discussion with a focus on India next time. But if you follow our website and us in social media, you will get more information on that in due time. Thank you very much. The seminar is now closed. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Marco. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.